Sizwe stared at his computer screen, the glow of the monitor reflecting in his tired eyes. Numbers swam before his eyes, blurring into a sea of monotony. Another day, another spreadsheet, another endless stream of data. Was this it? He longed for adventure, for something more than the daily grind. His mind wandered to distant lands, places he had only seen in pictures. Social media mocked him with pictures of friends on exotic vacations, basking in the sun, exploring ancient ruins, living the life he dreamed of. One day he'd sigh, scrolling through turquoise waters and snow-capped mountains. He could almost feel the sand between his toes, the crisp mountain air in his lungs, but one day felt a lifetime away. The reality of his situation weighed heavily on him, pulling him back to his desk. Trips like that cost a fortune he didn't have. His bank statements were a constant reminder of his financial constraints. He was stuck, or so he thought. The walls of his office felt like a prison, the routine a never-ending cycle.
Sizwe felt trapped in his monotonous job, yearning for something more exciting, something beyond the spreadsheets and the daily grind. He dreamed of breaking free, of finding a way to turn his daydreams into reality. But for now, he was here, in this office, staring at his computer screen, waiting for the day when he could finally chase his dreams.
Nomzamo, Sizwe's adventurous colleague, bounced into the office. "Guess what?" she announced, her eyes sparkling. "I just booked a trip to Plettenberg Bay."
Sizwe groaned inwardly. Another one of Nomzamo's adventures. He tried to sound enthusiastic. "That's amazing, Nomzamo. Must be nice to jet off like that."
Nomzamo chuckled. "Jet off? Sizwe, I'm catching the Baz bus down the coast, not hopping on a plane to Bali. Local is lekker, my friend. You should try it sometime."
Nomzamo's excitement was contagious, and her words planted a seed of curiosity in Sizwe's mind.
Local? Sizwe raised an eyebrow, but South Africa is, well, South Africa. I see it every day.
Nomzamo leaned in conspiratorially. "Sizwe, you'd be surprised. We have rainforests and deserts, mountains and beaches all right here. Ever been to the Drakensberg? Hiked Table Mountain? Surfed in Jeffreys Bay?"
Sizwe shook his head. He'd always dreamed of far-off destinations, overlooking the beauty in his own backyard.
Nomzamo's words opened Sizwe's eyes to the untapped adventures within his own country.
But what about the cost? Sizwe asked, the familiar worry creeping in. He had always been cautious with his finances, and the thought of spending money on travel seemed daunting. Even local travel adds up. The costs of accommodation, food, and transportation can quickly become overwhelming.
Nomzamo smiled, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "True, but it's way cheaper than flying overseas. Plus, you have options," she said, her voice filled with enthusiasm. "Camping, backpacking, even just a weekend road trip. There are so many affordable ways to explore our beautiful country. You can make it work. With a bit of planning and creativity, you can have amazing adventures without breaking the bank."
She was right. There were countless opportunities for adventure right at their doorstep. Sizwe had been so focused on the impossible, he hadn't considered the possibilities. He realized that he had been limiting himself with his own fears. Maybe, just maybe, he could make this work. He started to think about all the places he could visit, the experiences he could have.
Sizwe started to feel a glimmer of hope. The idea of exploring new places, meeting new people, and creating lasting memories began to excite him. Maybe, just maybe, he could make this work. He decided to take the first step and start planning his trip.
And with that, Sizwe's journey of discovering local adventures began. He realized that the world was full of possibilities, and all he had to do was embrace them.
A week later, I found myself behind the wheel of my trusty Toyota, driving along the garden route.
He'd opted for a road trip, a chance to clear his head and see this famed coastline for himself.
The open road stretched before me, a ribbon of asphalt winding through rolling hills and lush forests.
He rolled down the windows, breathing in the fresh air, the scent of pine needles, and the salty tang of the ocean.
Rediscovering joy in unexpected places, he stopped at roadside farm stalls, sampling homemade jams and freshly baked bread. He hiked to hidden waterfalls, the spray cooling his skin. He even tried his hand at surfing, albeit rather unsuccessfully. Each day brought new discoveries, new challenges, new joys. He was amazed by the diversity of his own country, the hidden gems tucked away in every corner.
Sizwe found joy in the simplest of places, rediscovering his own country one step at a time.
The call of the wild, coast. Reaching Knysna, he took a ferry across the lagoon, marveling at the majestic Knysna heads guarding the entrance to the harbor. The town buzzed with life, a vibrant mix of art galleries, craft markets, and waterfront restaurants. He spent his days exploring the forests, kayaking on the lagoon, and soaking up the sun on Brenton-on-Sea's pristine beach. He even indulged in a plate of fresh oysters, relishing the taste of the ocean.
Sizwe embraced the wild coast, finding peace and excitement in equal measure.
Back to reality, forever changed. Driving back to Johannesburg, Sizwe felt like a different person. The journey had been more than just a physical trip, it was a voyage into his own soul. The office walls seemed a little less confining, the spreadsheets a little less daunting. Each cell in the spreadsheet now felt like a piece of a larger puzzle. He had found a renewed sense of energy, a zest for life he hadn't felt in years. It was as if the trip had recharged his very soul.
Sizwe returned to his routine, but with a newfound perspective and vigor. He approached each day with a sense of purpose, knowing that life was not just about the destination, but the journey.
Local is lekker, explore your backyard. He couldn't wait to tell Nomzamo about his trip, to thank her for opening his eyes to the beauty of his own backyard. He had discovered that sometimes the greatest adventures are found not in distant lands, but in the places closest to home. Locale is lekker, as they say in South Africa, and Sizwe finally understood.
Sizwe's journey taught him that the most meaningful adventures are often right in our own backyard. Sizwe is a young South African with an insatiable curiosity. His travels have taken him from the bustling streets of Johannesburg to the serene landscapes of the Drakensberg Mountains. But this is just the beginning. With each step, Sizwe discovers more about himself and the world around him. His journey isn't just about the places he visits, but the people he meets and the stories he uncovers. Stay tuned as Sizwe's adventures continue to unfold, revealing the hidden gems of South Africa and beyond. Who knows where the road will lead him next? Stay tuned for the next video to learn more about Sizwe's journey. The journey continues.